Good morning to all the children. Now today, what we are going to start is what we left on Saturday. So Saturday we left with the process of polymerase chain reaction, and the process of polymerase chain reaction, I told you this has three steps, the denaturation, annealing, and then extension. So we discussed the first step of PCR, polymerase chain reaction. The first step we discussed, that was denaturation. After obtaining the DNA is denatured, and the process by which we denature is by treating it at a very high temperature. And that high temperature at which it is treated, that high temperature is about 92 degrees centigrades. If the temperature at which the DNA is treated is very, very high, that means, say, about more than 98 or 98 and above, if the temperature will be more than this 98 or above, what will happen, that the phosphodiester bonds will also break. As you know, the DNA is like this, one strand, another strand, and both the strands are attached by the hydrogen bonds like this. So both the strands are attached by hydrogen bonds like this. We have the bases, and where the hydrogen bonds G, triple bond C, these are attached by hydrogen bonds. And on the side, the sugar and phosphates, they form the bonds which is phosphoester and phosphodiester bond. Here the glycosidic bonds, and here the phosphoester bond. So what happens at a very high temperature, this bond also breaks, this bond also breaks. So we get very, very small fragments of DNA, which we do not want. We want only these bonds to be broken, so that we get two strands with broken hydrogen bonds. That means we'll get something like this. One bond, one strand will be like this. It will have one type of basis. Another strand will be like this. It will have another type of basis, the complementary basis. So these bonds to be broken, and this is done at a high temperature, say about 92, 93 degrees centigrade, and the hydrogen bonds break, and the denaturation of the DNA takes place. Now, as you know, this is always double helical, 3 prime, 5 prime, 5 prime, and 3 prime. So double stranded like this. So denaturation has taken place. The second step, which is there in PCR, is annealing. Now, why we are doing PCR? We are doing PCR for amplification. Amplification, because we have very little content. Amplification, because we have very little content of DNA, so we want to increase it in amount, and to increase in it amount or to amplify it, PCR is done. So second is annealing. In annealing, what happens now? See, we have got two strands of DNA now, broken strands, two strands of DNA we have got like this now. Now we want that new strands, the template strand, the new strands to be formed here, here on these, the what we say, old strands, new strands to be formed. For that, what do we need? The first thing which we need is RNA primer. You know, for forming new strands on these all old strands, you know, new DNA has to be formed, and that new DNA will be formed by adding nucleotides. By adding nucleotides, new strand will be formed. But I told you that addition of nucleotides to form a new strand will be by DNA polymerase. DNA polymerase helps in adding the nucleotide and increasing the length of the DNA strand, but it cannot initiate. I told you it cannot initiate the formation of the process of formation of new strand. DNA polymerase can extend. It can form a new strand, it can extend, but it cannot initiate. So for initiation, what do we want? For initiation, we want something else, and that is RNA primer. That is RNA primer which we want. RNA primer first, it will be added, and then the DNA polymerase will extend the formation of DNA strand. So for forming DNA, first of all, RNA primer has to be added, and this is done during the process of annealing. Now, RNA, the temperature required at the annealing, it is about 50 to 60 degrees centigrade. 50 to 60 degrees centigrade. And here what happens, this is 3 prime, 5 prime. Now, one thing more. What is the site of action of DNA polymerase? What is the direction of action of DNA polymerase? Who's going to tell me this answer? Anybody who can tell me the direction of action of DNA polymerase? In which direction it forms a new strand? It adds the nucleotide and forms a new strand. Yes. In which direction, beta? Yes. During RNA replication also we did. During RNA replication, the replication fork was formed like this, if you remember. 2 strands. This was 3 prime, 5 prime, no, 5 prime, 3 prime, 5 prime, 3 prime, 3 prime, and 5 prime. So which direction? Direction you remember? It is always, this is 5. It is always 5 prime to 3 prime. It is always 5 prime to 3 prime, and both the strands of DNA are opposite. So if the new strand has to be formed on this strand, it will be formed in this direction. The new strand will be formed in this direction, and in the next strand it will be formed in this direction. Okay, the new strand will be formed in that direction on the first strand, and in this side direction on the second strand. So for that, first of all, RNA primer needs to be added. So how this RNA primer will be added? Yes, how this RNA primer will be added? The RNA primer will be added here, where the formation of new strand, from where it will start. So as you know, in 3 prime to 5 prime, the formation will be in this direction, because it has to be from 5 prime, always from 5 to 3. So it will be in this direction. So the primer will be added here. If it is 3 prime to 5 prime, the primer will be added towards the 3 prime side. Towards the 3 prime side, because this is RNA primer which is added, RNA primer which is added, and this will now initiate the process of adding up of nucleotide. Not this. This has initiated. Then DNA polymerase will extend this. So here again, it has to be 5 prime to 3 prime. So the direction of formation of new strand will be from this side to this side. So the RNA primer will be added here. This is RNA primer which is added, because DNA polymerase, which forms the new strand by adding up nucleotides, cannot initiate the formation of new strand. It can extend, but it cannot initiate. For initiation, RNA primer has to be added. So here also RNA primer has been added. This RNA primer has been added. So this is annealing process which is done at 50 to 60 degrees centigrade when RNA primer is added. Till now, the new strand has not been formed, and that will be formed in the third step, which is known as extension. So we come to the third step, and the third step is extension. Now the primer has initiated the process of synthesis of new strand. It has initiated. RNA primer has initiated. Now who will form the complete strand of DNA? The complete strand of DNA is formed by the enzyme DNA polymerase. DNA polymerase will synthesize the new strand. Now we have got one strand like this, and another strand like this, and here this is 3 prime, 5 prime, 5 prime, 3 prime. Now here RNA polymerase is added, RNA primer is added here. Here RNA primer is added here. Now for extension, now we need DNA polymerase. This DNA polymerase, this is an enzyme which gets denatured at a high temperature. And this process of extension is done at a temperature which is about 72 degrees centigrade. This is done at a temperature about 72 degrees centigrade. And at this temperature, the DNA polymerase, if it is obtained from a normal organism, this will get denatured. And when DNA polymerase gets denatured, that means it is not going to add up nucleotide here to make the complete strand. This is not going to add up the nucleotides to make a new strand. What is a nucleotide? What is a nucleotide, beta? Who's going to tell me? Answer my question. What is a nucleotide? Yes. What is a nucleotide? I'm not getting any response. What is a nucleotide? Yes, beta. I want your answer. What is a nucleotide? Not getting response. Yes. Nitrogenous bases plus phosphate plus sugar. Yes. Paras is answering, and that's very true and correct. Nucleotide is nitrogenous bases plus phosphate plus sugar. Nucleotide is nitrogenous bases, that means adenine, guanine and all, plus phosphate plus sugar. This makes 1 unit of DNA. 1 unit of DNA strand. This makes 1 unit of DNA strand. A sugar, nitrogenous base, suppose C, attached to a sugar, another nitrogenous base on this side, then attached to a sugar and a phosphate. Okay, so deoxyribose sugar, any sugar. Okay, and then phosphate. This makes 1 unit, and so many units. This is 1 unit. That means 1 nucleotide makes 1 unit of DNA strand. So many such units. That means nitrogenous base, sugar, and phosphate. This makes 1 unit of DNA strand. So many such units makes 1 DNA strand, 1 such unit, another such unit. This makes 1 DNA. So nucleotide is a unit of DNA strand. So what is the function of DNA polymerase? It keeps on adding nucleotides to make a complete strand of DNA. Now, as I told you that this process takes place at 72 degrees centigrade. And at this high temperature, this DNA polymerase, it gets denatured. Denatured means it will not add up the nucleotide to form a new strand. It cannot add up because it is not functioning properly. It has become denatured. So in that case, DNA polymerase from such organism is procured, which is able to bear that high temperature. Okay, so in the case of DNA of extension, the DNA polymerase from a hot spring bacteria, DNA polymerase from a hot spring bacteria, you know hot springs? There are so many hot springs in Himachal. You know hot springs? Yes. Name any hot spring of Himachal. Yes, yes. Name any hot spring of Himachal. Hot springs. Manikaran, very good, Paras. Manikaran, Shagun. Yes, Manikaran is where we have that Gurdwara, and next to Gurdwara is Ram Sita Mandir. So they make their rice in that hot spring. Even in Shimla, Tattapani is a hot spring. So there, the hot spring bacteria, some bacteria are able to survive in that hot spring. That means their DNA is such that it can bear very high temperature. So there is a hot spring bacteria. The name is Thermus aquaticus. Thermus aquaticus. This bacteria can bear high temperature. That means DNA can also bear high temperature. So the DNA polymerase is obtained from this bacteria. From this bacteria, which is a hot spring bacteria, the DNA polymerase is obtained, and that DNA which is obtained from this bacteria is known as Taq polymerase. TAQ, Taq polymerase. The DNA polymerase which is obtained from the bacteria is known as Taq polymerase, and it does not get denatured at a high temperature. So now what happens? Now this Taq polymerase, in place of the ordinary DNA polymerase, we take the DNA polymerase of a hot spring bacteria, which is Thermus aquaticus, and the DNA polymerase is, in this case, is known as Taq polymerase. Why this is taken? Because this is stable even at high temperature. Now this Taq polymerase is used, and this Taq polymerase keeps on adding the nucleotides, and the direction will be this side. It has to be 5 prime 3 prime. So this new, and this side it will be on this side, because the DNA strands are always, they are arranged in opposite. Like if one strand is 3 prime 5 prime, another has to be 5 prime 3 prime. So this is the way the new nucleotides are added. That means what do we get? We get a structure from one strand. We have separated both the strands of one DNA. So we have got from one for two strands, two DNAs we have got. So this is one. This is, suppose we name it A and we name it B. So we have got A and we have got B. So amplification has taken place or not? Amplification of DNA has taken place or not? If we go for PCR of these two now, again we will separate it, and we will separate B also. Again new strands will be formed on this. So they have increased in number. Then we can go for amplification of these four, A, B, C, D. What will happen? A and B, new strands on A and B. And then this is from A we have formed 2. From B again we will form 2. From C again 2 will be formed. From D again 2 will be formed. And this way amplification of DNA will take place. And this is what PCR is all about. Could you understand this process, PCR? Or any problem anywhere which you want me to repeat? Yes, beta. Anywhere, any point which you could not understand, I can repeat. Yes, yes, bache. Respond quickly so that I can start with competent host. Yes, bache, I'm not getting your answers. Shall I repeat the whole process, or is it clear? Yes, beta. Ma'am, here Okazaki. No, not here. Not here. Because Okazaki fragments are formed when new primers are added. When every time they open, a new primer is added. Here the primer is added only once. See here, only once the primer, for this strand only once the primer is added. This strand only once the primer is added. In case of Okazaki fragment, what happens? As I told you, I'll erase it and I'll show you here. In case of Okazaki fragments, why Okazaki fragments are formed? Because this is the fork which is formed. This is the fork which is formed. In here, one primer is added here, and this has to be formed in this direction. So in this direction, it forms. And here the primer is added up here because it has to be formed, because this is, say, 5 prime 3 prime. This is 3 prime 5 prime. So it has to be formed from 5 prime to 3 prime. And this is 3 prime 5 prime. It has to be formed from this side to this side. So now here, this has been formed till here. Now it will open up more. Now it will open up more. So now let's say that this has opened till here. Now, and I have already told you that it cannot go backwards. It can move only in 5 prime to 3 prime direction. So here, once the primer has been formed, it will just move forward. But here, it cannot go on this side. So new primer will be added here, and then from here to here, the strand will be formed by DNA polymerase. So every time every time it opens up, a new primer is added, and then DNA polymerase forms a strand. So Okazaki fragments are formed in that case when many primers are added. Here on this side, if you see, just once the primer is added and it has to go in that direction. But here every time, first it was open till here, then it opened little more, and it can go only in this direction, it cannot go back. So what happens? Every time a new primer has been added, and every time then it goes down and forms it. So Okazaki fragments are formed in that case when more than one primers are added. Is it clear, Paras? Yes? Okay. So if it is clear to everybody, shall I start with the next competent host or anything to be repeated in PCR? Yes. Anything to be repeated in PCR? Anything? Yes, I'm not getting your response, children. You have to tell me that, yes, we understood. Sukh Sahaj is saying only Sukh Sahaj or Paras replies, nobody else. Or Chitra sometimes, or Sunidhi, and nobody else. I don't know how many students are there because I'm not looking at the list of participants. Just show me, Shruti. Show me the list. Okay, Chitra again, clear? Yes. Yes, I want response from others also. Paras Singh. Vanithi, is it clear? Shruti Lakde, Chirag, Karthik, Parthavi, Shagun. Vanshika Singh is also saying. Shagun is also saying. Who's this? Vanithi, yes. Yes. Shruti Lakde, yes. Okay, clear. Sheetal is also there. Chirag Yadav, yes. Yes. Sheetal is also there. Parthavi is also there. Simran Sogi is there. Suzanne is there. Aditi Gurung is there. Sanjolika, Stanzan, Chostak, Lamang. Okay. So I think more than 50% have told that it is clear to them. So I should move on to the next, which is competent host. Amit Katoch, are you there, beta? Are you there? Amit Katoch? Is he there in the list? Okay. Okay. So let's start with the next topic, which is competent host. So I end up with PCR, which is amplification of DNA strands. If we get little amount of evidence from the site, which is in the form of blood, and we want to increase the amount, then this PCR technique, we take help of this PCR technique. It helps us a lot in amplifying the evidence which we have got in the form of blood or other smears from the site of scene, the crime scene. So this was PCR technique. Now I move over to competent host. Now, but till now what we learned, now for electrophoresis, because that was also a method which helps in biotechnology, and PCR is also a method which helps in biotechnology. Okay, this is a method which helps in, which adds to biotechnology. Actually, what we were doing before, that was formation of recombinant DNA. Recombinant DNA, and how that is then introduced or inserted in a vector, and how the vector takes it to the host. This is what we do. rDNA, recombinant DNA, and how this recombinant DNA is taken into the vector, is inserted in the vector. The vector is mostly a plasmid in which we insert this DNA, and then it becomes rDNA, recombinant DNA. Okay, sometimes in this form, in the form of recombinant DNA, this is introduced into the host. This is introduced into the host. Sometimes simple DNA, desired gene, which we call, sometimes only the desired gene is introduced into the host. And this we also call vectorless DNA. Sometimes only the alien DNA or vectorless DNA is introduced into the host. So how this is introduced into the host? So that it multiplies properly in the host, and our desired gene also multiplies. Host is all about. If we introduce a recombinant DNA or a desired gene into the host and it doesn't multiply there, then what is the use? The the host should be such that it should be able to multiply our desired gene. If you go to somebody's house and they do not really welcome you, you don't feel good. The same is about this. If the recombinant DNA is taken into the host, but in the host is not competent enough and it is not able to multiply our desired gene, then it's of no use. So what do we want? We want that the host where our recombinant DNA has been inserted has to be very competitive. It has to be a competent host which can keep our recombinant DNA properly as well as help to multiply it inside. Okay, then we will say that fine, our host is competent. Now, how this is introduced and what happens inside and what is a competent host, this is what we will talk about today. Now, first of all, I'll tell you from where do we obtain, yes, what can be the host? What can be the host? A competent host. A competent host can be a competent host. That means in which we are going to introduce a recombinant DNA or desired gene. It can be, number one, a prokaryotic cell, or a eukaryotic cell, anything. It can be a prokaryotic cell or a eukaryotic cell. We can send our recombinant DNA into a prokaryotic cell, or we can send our recombinant DNA into a eukaryotic cell. When we say prokaryotic cell, the best prokaryotic cell in which can act as a competent host is E. coli, Escherichia coli. And the eukaryotic cell which acts as a competent host can be a plant cell, can be an animal cell, or can be a fungal cell. It can be any. It can be a plant cell, it can be an animal cell, or it can be a fungal cell if we talk about eukaryotic cell. Now, out of all these competent hosts, or out of all these hosts which we have listed here, only the animal cell is single layered, single covering. Only this has a single covering, which is in the form of plasma membrane. It has PM or plasma membrane, whereas this one, and this one, all of them have cell wall also. Cell wall also. They have, in case of E. coli, cell wall is present. In case of plant cell, of course, cell wall is present, which is made up of cellulose. In the fungal cell, of course, another cell wall made up of chitin is present. So all these three, they have the cellulose, the cell wall in besides the plasma membrane. So first of all, what is done, that the cell wall is removed, and the removal of cell wall, after the removal of cell wall, what do we get? We get plasma membrane only covering the cell, PM enclosing the cell. We have only plasma membrane enclosing the cell. And this plasma, when a cell has only plasma membrane enclosing it, we call it protoplast. Protoplast. Okay. Now, competent host. How we introduce our recombinant DNA or desired gene into the protoplast. This matters. How to introduce. A host can be a competent host or not. Sometimes it doesn't allow the recombinant DNA or the desired gene to enter itself. So how we can make the desired host competent enough to receive our recombinant DNA? How this is done? Now, in the first case, what is done is we know the nature of plasma membrane. Now, see, this has been removed from the E. coli, from the plant cell, from the fungal cell, and we have got protoplast condition in which only one membrane, which is plasma membrane, is present. There is no cell wall present. So first of all, we remove the outer covering, which is cell wall, and now we have protoplast. Now what is done? As you know, the nature of plasma membrane. Plasma membrane, its nature. What type is plasma membrane? Is it hydrophilic or hydrophobic? Plasma membrane is hydrophilic or hydrophobic? Who's going to tell me this? Plasma membrane is hydrophilic or hydrophobic? Yes. Yes. We have done this in 11th class. Hydrophobic. Paras Singh says hydrophobic. Yes, that's true. Plasma membrane is hydrophobic. And what is the reason for being hydrophobic? Why the plasma membrane is hydrophobic? Hydrophobic means it hates water. Water hating. Okay. And what is the reason for this? That it is hydrophobic in nature? It is a lipid, it has lipid bilayer. Yes. Presence of lipid bilayer makes it hydrophobic. Lipid bilayer makes it hydrophobic. That means the plasma membrane is hydrophobic. Now let's come to DNA, which has to be introduced whether as recombinant DNA or alien. So the DNA, its nature is it is charged particle. It is a charged particle. And which, when we say that it is charged particle, what type of charge it has got? It is negatively charged. It is negatively charged. And if we talk about its nature, it is hydrophilic in nature. It is hydrophilic in nature. It is negatively charged and hydrophilic in nature. So how this hydrophilic structure, hydrophilic body can enter a membrane which is hydrophobic in nature? So for this is what we want to. We want to make the host competent enough to receive our DNA, recombinant DNA. So how this is made in a way that it can receive our DNA, or it allows our DNA to be introduced into the host. What needs to be done? There are some divalent cations. Divalent cations are used. Divalent cations. Like calcium. Went to the host, to our host,